In my new apartment, there's a sealed door with no handle. The building manager made me promise never to ask what's behind it. At night, it knocks anyway. It learns my habits. It writes me notes. And when I finally break the rule, I realize the door was never the problem. It was what it was training me to become. I moved into the apartment because it was cheap and because I needed to disappear for a while. Those two reasons often shake hands. The listing was vague, the photos were wide-angled and forgiving, and the neighborhood smelled like rain that never quite dried. On my first night, I found the door. It sat at the end of the hallway, flush with the wall as if embarrassed to be there. No handle. No keyhole. Just a rectangle of darker paint, the edges sealed with a bead of something that looked like old wax. Someone had painted over it again and again, the layers thick enough to soften the corners. If you stared too long, your eyes slid off it. I did what anyone does when they encounter something wrong but inconvenient. I told myself it was none of my business. I unpacked my books. I boiled water for coffee. I slept with the hallway light on. The next morning, the building manager knocked. He was older than his voice suggested, with hands that trembled like they were remembering an argument. He smiled without using his eyes and welcomed me, then paused as if he had forgotten a line. His gaze drifted down the hallway. About the door, he said, finally. You will never ask what's behind it. It was not a request. It was not even a rule. It was a sentence that assumed compliance, the way gravity assumes falling. I laughed because laughter is a social apology. Maintenance? I offered. He shook his head. You will never ask, he repeated, softer now, like he was reminding himself. And you will not touch it. If you hear things, you will ignore them. If you smell things, you will open a window. If you dream, he stopped. Welcome to the building. He left before I could ask anything else, and the hallway seemed longer afterward, as if the walls had leaned back to give the door more room. I tried to be good. For 3 weeks, I passed it without looking. I took calls in my bedroom. I learned which floorboards complained and which ones kept secrets. At night, the building settled like a body finding a comfortable position. Pipes whispered. Radiators clicked. Somewhere far away, a television laughed at jokes that were no longer funny. On the 22nd night, the door knocked. Not from my side. From within. It was a careful sound, knuckles cushioned, the kind you use when you do not want to wake a child. 3 taps, a pause, then 2 more, as if correcting a mistake. I stood frozen in the kitchen, my coffee cooling, my name forming and dissolving on my tongue. I did not ask what was behind it. I counted my breaths. I opened a window. The smell came anyway. Old paper and wet iron. The memory of a hospital corridor. The smell of a storm trapped in a basement. I gagged and laughed again, quietly, at myself, because surely smells do not mean anything. Surely walls are honest. That night, I dreamed of hallways that folded like maps. I dreamed of doors with skin. I dreamed I was knocking on something that breathed back. In the morning, there were scratches in the paint near the seal. Not deep. Just enough to catch a fingernail. Just enough to suggest patience. I emailed the building manager. I wrote about a draft. I wrote about noise. I did not ask the forbidden question. He replied within minutes. Do not touch it, he wrote. You are doing well. Doing well at what, I wondered. Surviving the etiquette of a haunted place? The knocks became regular. Always gentle. Always apologetic. Sometimes, late at night, I thought I heard a voice practicing words, syllables tasting the air through plaster. Once, I heard my name, mispronounced, like someone had learned it from a photograph. I began to notice things I had not noticed before. The way the hallway light flickered only when I passed the door. The way my phone lost signal there, as if the air thickened. The way the seal pulsed, imperceptibly, like a vein. On the 30th day, a note appeared on my kitchen table. My handwriting, almost. The letters leaned the way mine did when I was tired. "Thank you for not asking," it said. "It makes things easier." I did not scream. I sat down. I read it again. I folded it and put it in my pocket, because what else do you do with proof that the rules are watching you obey them? That night, the knocking changed. It was closer now, as if the space behind the door had learned how to lean. 3 taps became a scrape. The scrape became a press. The press became warmth. I stood in the hallway with my hand hovering inches from the seal, my reflection warped in the glossy paint. I thought of the building manager's hands, of the way his eyes had refused to smile. I thought of how rules are often written by those who have already failed them. From behind the door, something exhaled, and the wall bowed like a chest filling with air. I did not ask what was behind it. I listened. And something listened back, pleased, as if the first lesson had finally been learned. I wished the story ended with restraint. I wish I could say that listening was enough, that obedience bought safety. That is the lie buildings tell you while they learn your schedule. The thing behind the door learned fast. It learned when I showered, because the steam loosened the seal and the knocking grew excited, nails drumming like rain on a coffin lid. It learned when I cooked, because heat carries smells, and it liked the smell of burning oil and meat and something alive pretending it was not. It learned when I slept, because I dreamed louder near it, and dreams are invitations. The notes continued. Always polite. Always grateful. You are very good at this. Most people ask by now. You make the waiting easier. I burned the second note in the sink. The smoke smelled like hair. The third note appeared anyway, unburned, unfolded, already waiting for me on my pillow. I stopped leaving my bedroom door open. That did not help. Sound travels through bones, and apartments have plenty of those. Sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, I felt pressure behind my eyes, like someone else was trying to blink using my face. The building manager stopped answering emails. I cornered him in the lobby one morning. He looked smaller, as if the building had been feeding on him, too. "It's getting worse," I said. I kept my voice low. "It's learning things." He nodded, relief flickering across his face like a confession escaped. "Then it has chosen you." I grabbed his sleeve. His skin was cold, damp. "What is it?" His eyes finally met mine, and in them I saw the sealed door reflected, multiplied, stretching into forever. "You promised," he said. Not accusing. Afraid. "I never promised anything," I snapped. He smiled, and this time his eyes joined in, bright with something like hope. "You never asked." That night, the knocking stopped. The silence was worse. Silence is not empty. Silence is a held breath. Silence is a mouth hovering inches from your ear. I slept badly, drifting in and out of shallow dreams. In one, I was standing in the hallway, the door open at last. There was nothing behind it but another hallway, and another door, and another, each one sealed, each one breathing, each one waiting for someone polite enough not to ask. I woke to the sound of tearing. Not knocking. Not scratching. Peeling. The seal came away slowly, lovingly, like skin after a sunburn. I stood in the doorway of my bedroom, unable to move, as the air grew thick and metallic and wet. The door bulged outward, the paint cracking, the rectangle becoming a mouth learning how to smile. I understood then what the rule really was. Never ask what's behind it, because questions imply distance. Curiosity implies separation. Asking keeps you on one side of the door. Listening invites conversation. The door opened without a sound. There was no monster the way stories promise monsters. No teeth, no claws, no convenient shape for fear to grab onto. There was a space that should not fit inside a building, a darkness folded wrong, crowded with impressions instead of bodies. Memories pressed against me that were not mine. Lives paused mid-sentence. People who had stood where I stood and done exactly what I had done. Listened. It did not step out. It did not need to. It spoke inside my head with my own voice, perfected. "Thank you," it said. "You never asked. That means you're ready." "Ready for what?" I whispered, finally breaking the rule, because terror makes philosophers of us all. The space behind the door rippled, amused. "To manage," it replied. The hallway was different when I woke. Brighter. Cleaner. The door was gone, replaced by an ordinary stretch of wall, freshly painted. My phone buzzed with an email I did not remember sending. "Welcome aboard," it read. "Tenant retention is important. You'll do fine." I moved out 3 days later. I tell people the apartment was too quiet. I tell them the walls were thin. I do not tell them that sometimes, when I stand very still, I feel a sealed door forming behind my ribs. I am careful now. I am polite. When I hear knocking, I never ask what's behind it. And when new tenants move in, and they mention the strange door at the end of the hall, I smile without using my eyes and say the words exactly as they were said to me. You will never ask what's behind it. Because it listens. And it learns. And it is very patient.